One day you're scrolling through Instagram and all you see are those dreamy shots of London red buses, Edinburgh cobble streets, Cambridge historic universities. Everyone mentions the UK as if it were this utopia to live in free healthcare, rich history, and great education. But what if I told you that most of those picture-perfect caption corner people are battling a gritty secret struggle, playing out both privately and publicly in millions of British homes every day? So where did it all go wrong for so many people who dream of living in the UK? Today, we are unveiling the silent crisis facing our country. And believe me, that reality is much worse than most people think. Section 1. The catastrophe of costs of living. We only need to talk about the value of a pound from our economy crashing since 2016. But let's start with the elephant in the room: the cost of living crisis that is crushing British families. Here's a statistic that should catch your attention. As of December 2024, 56% of households in Great Britain said in 1 month alone where their cost of living had gone up. That's more than half the population watching their own money vanish at a pace that defies how quickly they can earn it. But wait, it gets even more incredible. From May 2021 to May 2024, a mere 3 years, food prices went up by 30.6%. For perspective, it used to take 13 years for food prices to increase that much. Now imagine your grocery tab going up by nearly a third in 3 years, even as your paycheck hardly budged. The numbers are staggering. As things stand, 7 million low-income households are doing without basics. Not a typo, 7 million households. We're talking about 5.4 million people who were food insecure in the last month alone. In one of the world's richest countries, people are forced to decide between warming their homes and feeding themselves. And here's the kicker: even if inflation has come down to around 2% on paper, the ZEP already is out of that horse. The compound effect is that while inflation has normalized, everything still costs a great deal more than it did just a few years ago. Your pound just doesn't go as far as it once did. Section 2. The housing nightmare. Now, let's consider housing, and this is where the UK's predicament turns truly, absurdly dystopian. The housing crisis is not something that only happens to poor people anymore. It's middle-class destruction. Average private rents in the UK rose by 9.1% in the year to November 2024 to £1,362 a month in England. In London, it's much worse. Rents there rose 11.6% in that period. Consider that your rent jumping by over 10% in just 1 year, while incomes struggle to keep up with overall inflation. Here is a reality that will blow your mind. Renters in the private sector in England spend 34% of their household income on housing, and the figure has been rising. The figure in London rises to 46%. Actually, according to the government's own figures, private renters in the lowest income quintile fork out a jaw-dropping 63% of their income on rent alone. That's not a life, that's financial survival mode. But wait, it gets worse. There are currently around 4.3 million homes on England's waiting list. The government says the country needs 300,000 new homes a year to meet demand, but they have been missing that target consistently. There was only 210,320 new homes built in 2022 and 2023. This scarcity keeps prices rising and quality often dropping. Want to buy instead of rent? Good luck. The average price of a house in England is now £309,000, with the amount needed for a deposit rising year after year. First-time buyers are older because they just can't afford to buy. Many young adults are stuck in so-called concealed households. That is, living with mom and dad long past their 20s, headed toward their 30s because they can't afford to move out. Section 3. Youth unemployment and the promise broken. Here's something that ought to scare the willies out of anyone pondering the future of Britain. Youth unemployment is soaring, and it is making a lost generation. The youth unemployment rate for 16 to 24-year-olds is 13.8% now, but even that only tells half the story. Here's the real kicker. Right now, there are 948,000 young people between 16 and 24 who aren't in education, employment, or training. That thing the people who know about these things call NEET. That's almost 1 million young people with no discernible way forward. But here is the really sickening bit. Of these children, 271,000 are economically inactive because they are on long-term sickness benefits. And that figure continues to grow in the wake of the pandemic. We're talking about a generation in the throes of mental health crises, enduring chronic illness, disconnected completely from the workforce. Those are some mind-boggling regional disparities. Youth unemployment in London reaches 20.2%, but some areas have rates of just 3.2%. This system is now two-tier. Postal code decides your future in essence. What's especially cruel is that even many younger college graduates are having a hard time. We have constructed an economy where it is no longer enough to simply have a degree because a degree is no guarantee of conceivably getting a good job, but you've still got to have the qualification. A lot of graduates are querying why they signed up for jobs that don't match their qualifications, which come with student loan debts and no apparent career path. Section 4. Crime and safety concerns. And this, my friends, is what every UK-based tourist board doesn't want you to know. The fact that the crime rate is on the rise and that life as a Londoner has become quite a dangerous affair. Crime incidents totaled 9.4 million in the year to the end of March 2025, according to the Crime Survey for England and Wales, up 7% on a year ago. But that's not all. What should really freak you out is this figure climbed thanks to a whopping 31% surge in fraud, up to 4.2 million incidents. That is to say, fraud has become so widespread that it's virtually an epidemic. Violence is another growing concern. There were 252,545 violent crime offenses registered in London directly during 2023-2024. That's up from the past few years, and it's part of a larger pattern across England and Wales. Here is a statistic for everyone to worry about. NHS staff are increasingly reporting physical violence, 14.38% suffering from this in the year of 2024 from patients or the public. When people whose job is to care for you are not safe at work, that's when you know something has gone very wrong with society. The truly worrying thing is that a lot of crimes are not being solved. Some 42% of cases are closed with no suspect identified, and confidence among victims in the police has declined. That sets up its own repeating cycle. Crime goes unreported, criminals become more brazen, and communities lose faith in law enforcement. Section 5. The NHS crisis. And then there is the NHS, the thing that is meant to be the crowning glory of British society, but it's creaking and bending under impossible demands. Just to give you a sense of perspective, here are some shocking statistics. In August 2025, only 75.9% of A&E patients were seen within the government's 4-hour target. The goal is supposed to be 95%. That's 1 in 4 people waiting more than 4 hours to be treated in an ER. But wait, it gets much worse. In January last year, a record 61,529 were left waiting for more than 12 hours after a decision to admit them was made. 12 hours. Have you ever been seriously ill, seen a doctor, and had that doctor decide that you should be admitted to hospital, only to wait half a day for an actual bed? The backlog for non-emergency procedures is no better. As of July 2025, there were 7.40 million cases awaiting treatment. The typical wait now is 13.1 weeks, twice as long as before COVID, 7.3 weeks. Treatments extend more than a year for some patients. This is not just about inconvenience, it's life and death. The Royal College of Emergency Medicine calculates that with every 72 patients who spend 8 to 12 hours in a department, 1 patient dies. People are actually dying on a queue for care within what is supposed to be, and sometimes it offers world-class quality of healthcare. So there you have it, the grim reality of living in the UK that no one wants to highlight. A cost of living crisis that has plunged millions into poverty. A housing market that has priced a generation out of its grip. loss of a generation with youth unemployment, increasing crime and communities not being as safe, and an NHS that is failing when its services are needed most. This isn't to be negative or to shoot anyone down from their dreams. It's about being truthful about the reality millions of people experience day to day. The UK remains a great country with many good things about it. Its history, its culture, and the opportunities to be had here are all real. But if you're considering a move there or already live there, you need to know what's really going on. The Instagram picture-perfect posts are not showing the family paying rent or heating. It's not the graduate living with their parents because they can't afford to leave home and move towards independence. It's not real for the patient who has spent 12 hours in A&E. But these are the facts that millions of people look to as modern Britain. It's not about whether the UK is a hard place to live. It's about if you are up for the challenge. Because then you can make decisions intelligently based on what you know. What do you think? If you live in the UK, have you faced any of these problems? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing content about what life is really like across our globe.